Hello and welcome. You're joining us live here on India Today's social media handles. I'm AkshitaNandagopal, getting you all the top stories that we're tracking this morning. And I know everyone has been hooked to all that's happening in Maharashtra, to our coverage also of the Maharashtra political crisis. With every minute, there's a new update that's come in that turns everything on its head. So what's happened in the last few hours? Last evening, finally, Uddhav Thackeray broke his silence. He went live on Facebook to talk about what's happened within his party. Essentially, there was endless speculation about whether he'd resign. He didn't do that. But what he said is that the CM throne means nothing to him. He said, I'm ready to resign. I have my resignation letter ready. I want Eknath Shinde or any other rebel to come to me to take this letter and submit it to the governor. I will resign. I have no problems. So essentially, it was a lot of grandstanding, a lot of emotional outpouring that he was resorting to essentially. And maybe he hoped that it would cut eyes with some of his MLAs. It clearly hasn't. So last night, amid all of this, Uddhav Thackeray, mind you, he's COVID positive. I have to highlight that because you won't believe what he did. He actually moved out of the CM's official residence, moved to his personal residence, to Matoshri. And all of this, as I mentioned, while he's COVID positive. So there was this huge number of supporters who gathered, all these Shiv Sainiks, thousands of them on the streets. Uddhav Thackeray, being COVID positive, still stepped out of his car, met all of them, greeted all of them, etc. The BJP, of course, has filed a complaint on that and has questioned how he's violated COVID protocols. But essentially, away from that entire showdown over COVID and the fact that he did something as careless as that, what has this meant politically? Well, he tried to show off that he still holds the mantle of the Shiv Sena. Right now, everyone's talking about Shiv Sena being two parts, Uddhav Sena and Shinde Sena. And which is the real Shiv Sena? Nobody really knows, because it depends on who the Shiv Sainiks are with, who the MLAs are with. Interestingly, as things are progressing right now, it's becoming very, very clear that the numbers are with Eknath Shinde. In the last few hours, while I was live on India Today TV, so much has happened in this regard. You've got MLAs streaming into the resort in Guwahati, which is where Shinde is staying right now, that it looks like he'll get that number of 37. Why 37? That's 2/3 of the Shiv Sena strength in the house. That's what he requires to ensure he's not disqualified and for this rebellion to really mean anything. So it looks like he's got that number comfortably, because you had at least 6 MLAs this morning going there, out of which 3 are confirmed to be Shiv Sena MLAs. The others were still ascertaining details over. So all of this has led to speculation that it's only a matter of time before Uddhav Thackeray is shown the door, before his government collapses. He made it very clear yesterday he's not for a floor test. Not surprising, because if you look at the way numbers are stacked up right now, it's not really moving in the favor of Uddhav Thackeray. There are a lot of questions being asked about why he's choosing to be very mellow about what's happening. The max that he's done is holding that show of strength while positive with COVID, by the way, and Aditya Thackeray waving his fists in the air, showing off the victory symbol, etc. But beyond that, as far as the strategy is concerned, nothing really has happened. What they've done essentially is strategize essentially that there'll be an emotional outburst perhaps by Uddhav Thackeray. It hasn't helped at all, because some of the most loyal Shiv Sena leaders, the likes of the representative from Dadar, which is where the Sena Bhavan is, even that person, Sada Sarvankar, has joined with Eknath Shinde. This is perhaps the worst and most humiliating moment for a Thackeray, that they've lost complete control of the Shiv Sena. Uddhav Thackeray is lying deserted right now and completely isolated. Nobody is with him. And Eknath Shinde, we're hearing, is waiting. At this point, he's waiting for the numbers really to swell up further. It already has. And the Uddhav government clearly is on the brink of collapse. But he's waiting for the numbers to swell up further. And after that, he is going to be shooting off a letter to the governor. Now, there's a hitch there. The governor, Bhagat Singh Koshyari of Maharashtra, is hospitalized with COVID. So what happens next? Well, it depends really if the government, the central government, chooses to bring in a stand-in governor. If that happens, if there's a stand-in governor who's brought in, we could see the MLAs from Guwahati being moved to Goa so that they can go ahead and submit and show off their presence, show off their numbers directly to the stand-in governor, which could be the Goa governor. So that will be interesting to watch out for. But this entire mention that I made is all based on a big if. The if is about what happens with regards to the governor. Now, if Shinde has the numbers and he actually does that of approaching the governor, it will mean that Uddhav Thackeray is to face a floor test. And with how things stand right now, there's no way he can survive the floaters, because what we're hearing is that Eknath Shinde is going to join hands with the BJP. No surprises there. I'm sure all of you guessed that that's what's going to happen, in the sense that Shinde is going to offer his support to the BJP. So that is how things are going to play out essentially in the next few days. Unless Uddhav Thackeray can pull off some sort of a miracle, it looks highly unlikely that this government, the Maha Vikas Aghadi, is going to survive. And what's rather surprising is that they're not putting up a fight at all. There's no effort by Uddhav Thackeray to kind of do something about this. The other aspect of it is that whatever happens to the Shiv Sena, to the Uddhav Sena as is being referred to right now, is going to hit the NCP and the Congress. And yet both parties are watching from the sidelines as to what's happening within the Shiv Sena. So much so that Sharad Pawar has told his party leaders, don't interfere. This is an internal matter of the Shiv Sena. So it looks like they've all essentially given up right now, and they seem to have, made comfort with the fact that this is going Eknath Shinde's way, which translates to BJP's way. So in the next few days, will we see the government in Maharashtra being replaced? All indications definitely seem to suggest that that's exactly what's going to happen. If you look at the kind of meetings that are being held, if you look at the kind of support that Eknath Shinde is getting, if you look at the, the kind of steps that Uddhav Thackeray is taking, nothing is working out in their favor. So we'll have to see what really happens in the next few hours, because Eknath Shinde claims that more MLAs are going to reach him, so much so that Uddhav Thackeray will only have 13 MLAs with him. If that is the case, it's going to be hugely embarrassing for Uddhav Thackeray, perhaps the biggest setback not just for Uddhav Thackeray but for any Thackeray ever. They're synonymous with the Shiv Sena. That's clearly gotten ruined completely, destroyed by what Eknath Shinde has done here. And trust us here on India Today to get you every single update that pours in on this big story. Lots of twists and turns that's playing out in this political pot boiler, but we're keeping you ahead on every single one of them. Thanks for the moment.